Welcome back to the Sunday Business Page.
Like the late comedian Rodney Dangerfield used to say about himself, retirement planning often doesn't receive any respect. You'd be surprised how unprepared most of us are for that time in our lives. We're also unprepared for the consequences of not planning ahead. We welcome back Bob Fragasso to the Sunday Business Page. He's founder, chairman, and chief executive officer of Fragasso Financial Advisors, which is also a sponsor of this program. Bob, great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me on, John.
Thank you again. Well, why doesn't retirement planning get some respect?
Well, I think both participants and the trustees, those that the managers and owners of companies usually sit as trustees, from both bodies of people, they're ignoring their plans, and thus they're not respecting the value that could occur for them.
When should you begin retirement planning?
Well, earlier is better. I think there are a lot of reasons, if I might stay with that first point for a minute, why people ignore and thus disrespect the plan. For one thing, and this plays into your question, it seems too far in the future.
Right.
And the value is undefined. But yet, if one starts early, it can be a very cost-effective way to fund your retirement security. An example, a 25-year-old who wants to amass $1 million at retirement. Now, $1 million is the oft-mentioned middle-class nugget for retirement security, because $1 million isn't what $1 million used to be. So
sounds like a lot of money for a lot of folks.
Well, it is. Well, half of workers hit retirement unprepared. Social Security's not going to do it. That's a baseline. The old defined benefit pension plan went the way of Grandpa's Oldsmobile.
Yeah, nobody has pensions unless they work for the government.
And those are underfunded, unfortunately. So they're running at a deficit. So the pension plan is too costly, and they've gone away. Only 25% of all workers are covered by pension plans. So defined contribution plans where you contribute, your employer matches potentially.
Right, the 401ks.
401ks, and that's one letter numeral designation of a defined contribution plan. So we'll use that ubiquitously for all such plans. So a 401k is something that you're going to put money in, and you're going to get around to it, especially if you're younger, because the future seems infinite at that point, when in fact a little later on it seems pretty finite.
Can you really amass $1 million by retirement age? How much do you have to put in? If I were 30 years old and I finally had a decent job, can I set aside some money? How much would I have to set aside to have $1 million?
Well, I'll use 25, John, because that's typically you come out of school, you get yourself oriented, and now you're in and you're making a salary, and you've got other demands, you've got student loans you might have to pay off, that kind of thing. If you put away about $445 a month, that's a car payment. And you put that away, and let's assume an average total return of 6% over that long span of time till age 67 when normal retirement occurs, you'd have $1 million.
So it's $445 a month. That's still a lot of money, particularly for a 25-year-old. But
they don't hesitate to get a car payment.
Well,
in that amount, right?
Right, it's all a judgment call, right? What is it you want?
People, I could sit down with anyone and go through their cash flow and find expenditures that aren't contributing to lifestyle, but we just do it because of inertia. We just keep making those payments. How many premium channels do you have in your package? Do you watch them all?
Yeah.
How many magazines do you get that you don't read?
Yeah, I know this exercise.
How much are you paying for too little or the wrong insurance? I could go through and not change your lifestyle or my lifestyle at all and find money to put away.
And that's where retirement planning can be really helpful, even at a younger age?
Well, here's the juxtaposition to what we just said. If that 25-year-old who could retire with $1 million puts away $450 a month, instead, remember the cricket who fiddled versus the squirrel who gathered nuts? If he fiddled and partied until age 45, it would be almost $1,900 a month for the same $1 million. Gotcha. That's much more. That's 3 car payments.
Yeah. And what's the magic of $1 million? I mean, it sounds great. I think everybody would love to have $1 million, in a bank account when they retired.
Well, one has to consider longevity. Today, longevity is at least 20 years. On average, it's
20 years
plus,
after retirement.
20 plus years after retirement. So retiring at 65 or 67, right. We're going to live 20 years. But with better pills and better lifestyles, those of us who are nearing that age realize that we don't expect to just go in 20 years. We might be around for 30, especially if we're female.
Well, that's true. Yes,
Because there's a gender advantage there. But for 20 years, and you're drawing down. Now let's throw in another factor. We don't want people's eyes to glaze over, but this is real stuff. Consider the average inflation over that period of time.
Right.
So if I put in inflation, I consider your drawdown as a middle-class retiree, you're going to have a little bit of money left over to leave for your kids if you start out that way.
$1 million is going to be worth half of what it is today in 40 years.
There's no question. No question.
Ultimately, then, I guess what we're saying is that the disrespect we give financial planning really costs us money in the long run.
Costs money, but also costs potential security, because all that stands between an insecure, uncomfortable retirement and a successful retirement is the money we send on ahead.
Right.
So we're not understanding what we need to do. And that's where I mentioned cash flow analysis, and everybody says, oh my God, I'll do that next week. I'll do that I'll do it after I take the garbage out. This is imperative, all right? So cash flow management along the lines, the examples I gave. You don't have to change your lifestyle. You just have to be smarter about how you're spending money. But the other thing is to understand the dynamics. And this is an important point. I'd like the listeners and the viewers.
We only have about 20 seconds, so.
$1 in a retirement plan isn't a dollar taken out of lifestyle, because if you take it, you have to pay the tax man. So it's only 75 cents you're taking away from current spending. That's a big deal. It
is a big deal. And Bob Fragasso, you're always a wealth of information. I think if people come away with just one little notion, it is go see a financial planner. Start thinking about this long before you get gray hair like I have.
Today's the first day of the rest of your life.
You got it. Bob Fragasso,
thank you, John.
Thank you, sir. We'll be back with more of the Sunday Business Page in just a few moments. Stick with us.